Hey everybody, and welcome to Static Shift Resonant Frequency Episode 1. Resonant Frequency is a little bit of a kind of sideshow that we're going to be putting together totally off the cuff. I literally have one sentence that says, welcome to Static Shift Resonant Frequency Episode 1, and that is my intro. And then apart from that, we're just going to kind of talk about really anything we want to talk about that relates to Static Shift. So that includes behind-the-scenes stuff, that includes kind of production notes. Maybe we'll start throwing some bloopers up in here because we have plenty of bloopers to go through, as everybody knows. By the way, my name is Rob Sogomonian. I'm one of the founding members of Articulate Studios. I've got 3 other founding members of Articulate Studios, and coincidentally, the voice talent behind Episode 1, Blackwood Manor, of Static Shift. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them, or at least give them an opportunity to introduce themselves here right now. So Jason Tibor is the creative lead, the creative director, the showrunner, as it were, of Static Shift. This all comes out of his warped mind. We love him. He's amazing. Jason, you want to take a couple of seconds and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Rob, for that introduction. My name is Jason Tibor. I'm a voice actor, and I guess now I can officially include audio drama director, producer, showrunner to the resume. But I live on a ranch in very rural southern Oregon. So it's really quiet out here, which happens to be a great place to do some voiceovers. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be helping to bring Static Shift to the world. So now, if we could maybe hear from our very good friend, Aaron, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Aaron Sokalski. I am Florida Man, and I am a voice actor / sound editor. And that's it about me.
I love it. We got something special coming from Aaron in the future. Last, but certainly not least, definitely one of the driving forces behind Articulate Studios is my good friend, Tiffany our good friend, Tiffany Magnuson. Tiffany.
Yeah. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. It's an honor to be with you guys. I love working with you guys. So this is great. So I am also a voice actor. Surprise. But I also live in Oregon, although not as rural as Jason. I'm up in the Portland area. So, I mainly do voice acting. Among some other things, family and all that kind of stuff, and a day job. But that's
You're also a pretty talented audiobook producer. I've worked with you on at least one audiobook, and you put that whole thing together. You directed it. You mixed it and mastered it, as far as I know. So you don't sell yourself short. You're also a badass, just like all of us.
and a book fest winner. So yeah.
There we go. She's just being modest, everybody. It's fine. She's far and away better than all of us because she's awesome. And my name, again, is Rob Sogomonian. I'm one of the founding members here at Articulate Studios, as are we all. And I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, about 35 miles east of San Francisco proper. I live on a very busy street, but my studio is at the back of my house, and I've got a ton of... you can't see it here, but I've got 2 layers of acoustic blankets that I drop down behind me to try and cut out some of that noise. I close my door, it basically becomes a very quiet oven in my booth when I'm recording. But
Don't we all have our own little ovens?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nothing new if you guys are. I'm a voice actor, producer, video producer. I do a lot of things. And I'm super proud to be involved with these guys and the other founding members of Articulate Studios, which they will be in podcasts in the future. But you guys have probably listened to episode 1, Blackwood Manor. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you go and look up our Static Shift main channel and give that a listen. Or watch the kind of animated version of it on YouTube. None of us that I know of are very talented animators, so we just kind of quickly put together a little bit of a visual flair to go along with the episode that gives it a little bit of context with the changing color of the lights, if you ever go and look that up. But go ahead and listen to it on your podcast platform of choice. Should be available on Apple, Spotify, everywhere, if you haven't listened to it yet. Now I can hear echo, so Tiffany, you might need to put your headphones on.
Yeah, hold on a second.
No worries. Jason, what
Yes.
was the genesis of Static Shift? What kind of got you thinking about that?
Well, really, the genesis of this show is our group, Articulate Studios. And I've had the opportunity to tell this story once or twice before, and I love telling it each time. So we had our first ever meeting of what would come to be Articulate Studios. And initially, it was just a group of people who were like-minded, who were in similar places in their voice acting careers, and we just wanted to do more. Like, we looked at the things that are possible, and we thought, well, we're not even scratching the surface, and we can do a lot more together than we can separately. So during our very first ever meeting, I had this idea for some original content, and I thought, well, so we've got this stable of talented voice actors who are all itching to do something. Why don't we put together an anthology series? Make it a cool, moody sort of anthology series. And then later on, I sort of implemented the idea, well, maybe all of these different stories take place in a shared universe. And then I thought, well, what if it's just one city? And I just sort of was inching further and further away from the anthology. And I think maybe by the time I got to episode 3, I realized, no, this isn't really an anthology. This is just a very big story. But so that all came in the process of creating Static Shift. When episode 1 was born and written, it was an anthology. This episode was initially meant to be just one thing that happens in this shared universe. And the idea for a haunted, but a spooky place, like a spooky asylum or something, actually came from another founding member who has, just due to her other professional audiobook commitments, has kind of had to take a step back from this group and focus on some of her other things. But she said she's a big Scooby-Doo fan, so she said, what about a haunted old hospital or haunted house? And so really the idea was a riff on the haunted house trope. And I thought, okay, 3 teenage kids go exploring in a spooky old building and bad stuff happens. And that's
awesome.
That's what episode 1 is.
It's wonderful because I definitely got that vibe when we were recording it, and it takes an unexpected turn kind of in the middle. It's a little bit more than just a spooky haunted house.
Right. Well, and that's where I had really a lot of fun with it, and I think that was also the springboard for this to be a larger story, a more complex universe. Because if it's a haunted building or a building where bad things are going to happen if you go exploring, there has to be a why. There has to be a something that happens. How is this bad? Do they just get really scared and then run out of the building and they all look at each other and laugh and say, boy, that was quite an experience. Let's not do that,
That's certainly not what happens.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be the B-roll episode for that, where they all just learn a lesson and they're sensible, and then they all go home and do their homework.
Old Uncle Larry was right.
Yeah, Uncle Larry was right the whole time. We should have listened to him.
Geez, guys, I can't do that again.
Tiffany, since you popped in, tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into, because it's always fun, in my booth when I start kind of getting scared and doing, efforts and things like that to kind of illustrate or emphasize or act out. Obviously, we're like just in this little space. We're not running through a house. What was it like for you to kind of do some of that recording? How did you enjoy that?
Well, it's always a lot of fun trying to act out some of those emotions. Emotional acting is one of my favorite things to do. And if I can get somebody else to feel that emotion too, then I did my job. So, so I try to put myself in place in time so that I can feel those feelings. And then, of course, it makes everything easier because it doesn't feel like the effort that you put on or whatever, it doesn't sound like you tried. It just sounds natural. So I try to do that as much as possible. Yeah.
Love it. And Aaron, what's your take on that? On bringing the emotion to kind of the scene, going through a spooky house, but we're not really going through a spooky house. We're stuck in our booths. What was that like for you?
For me, it's all about visualization, which I can kind of toot a horn of I'm pretty good at because I'm, at my core, very character-driven. So it's, as Jason's stories unfold, his words and his scripts literally come to life for me. So as we're acting these parts out, I don't know what you guys see, but I know what I see. And, it is that dank city post a rainstorm, so the street is nasty and wet, right? And it's the sirens in the background, so the cops are chasing somebody 2 blocks back. And then, of course, the mansion itself, which I'm picturing as, funny enough, I grew up in like a retirement community, so antique shops and old buildings were everywhere. And of course, we had a large abandoned house that just stood in the middle of town, and that's exactly what I pictured.
Almost kind of like the House of Usher is where I went. I don't know about you. Is it similar?
So in the middle of a very old town called Mount Dora stands what's known as the Donnelly House. And anybody who's from Central Florida knows what the Donnelly House is. And that's what I pictured as we were kind of going through there.
Gotcha. That's actually really cool. And in the area where I grew up in California, the San Francisco Bay Area, we don't have very many dilapidated houses. Usually a house kind of starts falling apart and then it's bulldozed and, somebody buys it, tears it down and just starts from scratch. So we don't get those opportunities. So for me, like I went to the House of Usher, maybe Edward Scissorhands, like his mansion, or even the if you guys are Doctor Who fans, the house where they first meet the angels, the weeping angels. Aaron and Tiffany, this isn't actually our first time recording this episode. Our first recording isn't the one that made it to the actual finished product, is it?
Nope. And I'm actually glad for it because the second time around was like far and away better. I mean, we had all worked together longer once we decided to redo that episode. And I think we had a lot of chemistry. Some of the laughing in there was genuine because we were having such a fun time.
Yeah, agreed with that. Aaron, what was your take on the first recording, our initial pilot versus what we ended up with?
I very much enjoyed our pilot because, it's that first time getting into Jason's head and seeing what it is we're messing around with. I think the second time, there's no other way to say it. We got in there, we just banged it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew what we were dealing with. We already had ideas in our head how to make our characters better. We were better actors at the time. Actually, if I'm being honest, given the amount of time we had between the pilot and the re-record, it wasn't too terribly long, but each of us had gotten significantly better in our acting. I mean, just from the jobs that we had done, be it the audiobooks or, being part of any other dramas that we may have been part of, or myself doing all the fan dub stuff that I was doing at the time. I mean, we had just gotten so much better in such a short amount of time. And it really goes to show between the two recordings.
Absolutely. And for anybody who's listening to this, you guys can go and take a listen to our original pilot. The link will be in the show notes here, or if you're watching this on YouTube on our channel, I'll put a link to the original pilot in the description of this video. We've hidden it just because the production value is a little bit less cool, and we don't want to confuse anybody. So if you want to go and listen to the original pilot, go ahead and just find it in the description below or in the show notes if you're listening to this on one of your podcast platforms of choice. But I agree with you guys. Plus, like, we as a group, as like a troupe of voice actors, we do a weekly script practice, and we have a Tuesday accountability meeting as well. So I think that going through that even, and just kind of, number one, learning, playing off of each other, getting feedback from each other, has elevated all of us, and it's been a huge benefit. At least that's my perspective, and it definitely shows between the two episodes. Let's move on to kind of a little bit about what's coming up next. Now, Jason, are we... so the three of us and you play characters in episode 1. Are we going to be always playing the same characters moving through the rest of the episodes of season 1?
No.
I like it. Short and to the point.
Well, I think really it goes back to the initial concept, which was just an anthology series. So that would just mean everybody's playing a different role and a different character every week. And then as I alluded to earlier, I think it was sometime around episode 3, I thought, no, I've got something here. Pardon me, I've got a story that there's a larger, more involved story here. So I am very happy to say, as we get into some of the later episodes, you're going to start hearing a bigger variety of voices because our group, Articulate Studios, has grown. We've added some members, some incredibly talented people. The bulk of episodes 1 through 5 were all produced and written prior to a lot of these folks coming on. So episodes 1 through 5 is going to be a slightly more limited cast, but it's exciting because actually, I should say you as performers, because I'm doing the same damn thing every single episode. I have the easiest job for an actor in the whole show.
That's not entirely true. You do, I mean, yes, you're the DJ, you're the kind of voice of God for the series, but you sneak in here and there.
I mean, possibly. Who knows? Who's to know with these things? But it's been an interesting challenge because I really am committed to making Static Shift not only its own thing, its own entity that sort of finds its audience and finds its own life, but I also wanted this to really be a showcase for Articulate Studios, because it was immediately apparent we have a really deep bench, you guys. And not to stray too far off the path, but in what we do in voice acting, we have to wear an awful lot of hats.
Yeah.
We have to be creatives. We have to be business people. We have to be accountants. We have to be HR. We have to be all of those things. And those are skills that take a lot of time to develop. But if you look at the various skill sets of the members of our group, if you want to put all that together Voltron style, I think we're kind of unstoppable with our combined resources, because Rob, you have such a strong background in leadership and marketing, and Aaron sort of has the market cornered on, like he's all in on characters and doing the deep dive and just really, really getting in there and leaving it all on the stage, as it were. And I mean, I could go on, but we all have these different backgrounds and different skill sets. So I thought, okay, if we use all of these things together in one project, and, to start off with, we'll do other projects in the future, obviously. But I wanted to say, all right, we've got all these elements. Let's put it all together. Let's push as hard as we can, and let's see what kind of awesome we can create with this. And so that's that. This whole time, since, and I think it was over a year ago. It was about a year ago that this idea first was conceived. So this whole time over this past year, that has really been my North Star for this project.
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. And another, just kind of a like, so I also have a background in technology. So I registered the website address for Articulate.studio on November, I think 20th or 10th of last year. So we had already kind of been. We were already a group. We didn't know that we were going to be doing anything super serious when we first kind of got together, but we slowly kind of built in. And the only reason I bring that up is, yes, it's been just about a year, and up until, we're going to talk about this a little bit. I'm going to have Tiffany and probably a little bit more Jason talking about this. How we kind of like everything kind of fell into place in the last 2 months. I had a couple of placeholder images. We had our original pilot up on the website, and that was literally all it was. Tiffany has a graphic design background, or if she doesn't, she does a very good job of pretending she does. She came up with our logo. She came up with the font and everything for the actual logo. We went back and forth on a couple of other things, but Tiffany basically, like, the branding is almost all her. So she just rocked that out. And she's also got, she's got production background. So she gives, Tiffany, tell us a little bit about that. Like, what got you into the mindset? Where were you when you were putting together what became our logo?
Well, since there's 8 of us, right, we had the Articulate, and of course, the animal that has, 8 tentacles, of course, it's the octopus. So that's kind of where that came from. And I drew a lot of inspiration from what you had put together originally and what some other people had kind of talked about. And so I'm like, I think it could look like this.
It's so good. It's so good.
And I selfishly used those colors because those are like my colors. The teals and the blues and all that kind of stuff are typically the colors I tend to gravitate towards. So that's just my selfish kind of contribution to the logo, was the color. But yeah, I wanted it to be clean. I wanted it to be iconic. I wanted you to be able to recognize what it was in a small format as well as large. And I think it accomplished that.
I think you nailed it. Like you said, I'd done a couple of sketches early on, and I was kind of going for a little bit of a vibe of, like an octopus that was a voice actor. But I'm looking at the logo now is why I'm not looking at the camera. But like the octopus kind of going around that 8, or like the bottom tentacles kind of forming the 8. It's just, oh my gosh, chef's kiss, Tiffany. Great job.
Well, because it was more about all of us together rather than one of us performing, right? Which is why I had the tentacles wrap around the 8.
Yeah.
Because it's all of us together. Yeah, so that's why I ditched the microphone.
Yeah.
from
well,
the
no. I think it's great. And it does, it goes back to the fact that a lot of the stuff that we work on is collaborative in nature. One of us will come up with an idea, and then there will be a lot of iteration and a lot of feedback. And sometimes the feedback wins, and sometimes the feedback gets, put to the side, as feedback should. If you're working on your own passion project, you should, listen to everything and just be like, all right, cool, I'm going to take 1, 3, and 5 and ignore 2 and 4 to make it what I want it to be as the creative director. Unless you're Jason and Rob keeps saying we need a scream in the trailer, and then Rob wins.
Gets a scream.
Yes. And then fisticuffs happen.
Yeah. Yeah, we both got better. My
Yeah.
broken nose. We anyway. I'm kidding. That didn't happen.
I still can't walk right.
Aaron, you are our character actor. At least in the original founding 8 members. Tell us a little bit about your fan dubs and how they kind of informed some of your performances, specifically in episode 1, since that's what we're talking about here. But how did they help you in some of the other, not specifics, but, as a whole, in the characters that you've portrayed?
Okay, so this is this is going to delve into what I like to call the voiceover stereotype. Okay? A lot of young males, when they get really far into anime, they say to themselves, I'm going to be a voice actor. I'm going to do what they do, right?
Oh, yeah.
30 years ago, I was that guy. So to answer your question specifically, I have a lot of anime to draw from. Very rarely will you hear something from me that is not inspired by something 30 plus years old that everybody forgets about.
Let's hold on that for just a second, because you say 30 plus years ago. You can't be more than 30 years old.
Hold on. Wait. Okay. Wait. Okay, now I'm not more than 30 years old. Oh, wait, now I am.
Giving yourself a... No, you're... No. I know you are 30. I know you're older than 30, but it's interesting because I think all of us look a lot younger than we actually are. So I just wanted to touch on that. Continue your story. Sorry, Aaron.
No. A lot of the places in my brain, they stem from something from my teenagehood or my times, in my 20s, because I have a lot of people who have inspired me from when I was young, and I like to believe that, I would like to carry what they've done forward. Now, I understand we live in an ever-changing world, in ever-changing times, and there will always be debates about what acting style is better now versus then. However, I would like to think that whatever I bring, be it old or new, in with the times or not, it's authentic. I always want everything I throw in to a project, especially when it's a passion project like Jason's. I don't want to dishonor what he's done by giving a half-handed performance. I want to go all in, and if it's cringy and if it doesn't work, then I rely upon him to tell me this doesn't work. I need you to try again in a different way, and there won't be arguments. It's just going to get done. One of the most important lessons I've learned in my time as a voice actor is follow the instructions, and that is why he is the maestro.
Absolutely.
Well, and you are so directable also. You take feedback super well. When somebody says, hey, I need you to have, kind of lower it down a little bit, go this direction, you take that really well, and it's almost instantaneous. You're able to make that shift. So I think that's a really great, kind of feather in your cap that you have that makes it easy to work with you and to get multiple takes and get a feeling for what's happening. Because I know from Jason's perspective, sometimes it's better to have a couple options to see how it all flows together. Yeah.
Yeah. Tiffany, I couldn't agree with that more. And just from a director's point of view, it makes it so easy to trust a performer when you can just say, let's try it a little softer, a little harder, faster, whatever it is. So I know that whatever his instincts are, 80 to 90% of those are going to be exactly what I'm looking for. And the rest of it, I know I can have a 15-second conversation with Aaron and say, I'd like it to be a little more this, and then it happens. So to have the path from a script and no recordings to I have enough recorded material that through the magic of editing, I'll be able to tell this story exactly the way I want it to, because Aaron performs so reliably, and not just Aaron. You guys are all right too, but
Just a little.
yeah, you're passable as perform. No, I'm kidding, of course. No, this does extend to all of you, and it also helps that when you go to record something and you have, I have as a director an idea in my head of how I want a certain line to sound or whatever. And I can say, well, actually, I heard you do this other piece a week ago in a script workout. So I already know you can do it. So just do it like that, but just with a little more or less of one element. Um, so there are a lot of things built into the production of this show um, that are that kind of are stacked in our favor. I think there are advantages to working with this tight a group of people that you may not that may not be present when you've got uh, when you put out a casting call. You put out auditions and people send in auditions and you go through and listen to them.
Yeah,
Like
chemistry and a team dynamic matter. They matter a
chemistry,
lot.
yes, chemistry, a team dynamic, and especially as I think episodes 1 and 2. If you'll notice, the names of the characters, pardon me, tend to be a little non-specific as to gender. That was because I didn't know who was going to play them. It was like who's available, who's interested. Um, that was how episode 1 was, and I think episode 2. Um, but starting with about episode 3, I started writing with specific actors in mind.
How does
So
that change how you approach the scripts, Jason? I know that I've written my own scripts for a couple of things, but I've always done them. It's usually me in mind because it's usually a script for myself. So I haven't written very many scripts for, I guess kind of, but not for actors. I've done a couple of real estate videos where I've basically written the description of what I want the agent to say for their own house. But that's not really acting. That's just a descriptor for the house. How does it change when you're writing a story? And how is that different when you were doing like, okay, I don't know who's going to play these characters versus, okay, now I know that, Tiffany's going to play this, Aaron's going to play this, Jennifer's going to play this. Like, does it make it easier or more difficult? Talk to us a little bit about that.
I think the biggest difference between just writing a part and then we'll find the actor later, and I've got this part that I'm writing for Tiffany is I know Tiffany. I've not only do I know her as an actor, as a creative, but I know her as a person. Like we've had conversations about our kids and being parents and everything else that you can think of that friends would talk about. So when I'm sitting down to write a character for Tiffany, I think it allows me to just feel the character, and I know what like I have I think a pretty good idea by now what everybody who's involved in this production of what your strengths are, maybe the things that you've felt you had to work on a little bit because they weren't as strong. There are a lot of times where I'll write something and I'll have a character do something or deliver a line in a certain way because I think it would be really cool to hear Aaron deliver this line in this way. Or, man, I want Rob to get like really pissed off in this part because I dig it when he did that thing 2 weeks ago, and I think he can do that even harder, and I think that's going to serve this story. So really, I'm thinking about what's going to serve the story, and then and then I just kind of feel out what does that person playing this character, how does all that together, how can I best use that to serve the story, to move the story along?
I think there's also been some times when we made some choices when we were reading the script that you're like, oh, I like that. Maybe it wasn't what you
A
expected,
lot.
but
Actually, that's happened a
yeah,
lot, and I love it.
That's
which is
fantastic.
fun for us because it's like, oh, cool, that worked.
Right. Well, and I think too that goes back to trusting you as performers. Um, I think as long as you as all of the actors, as long as they get the feeling of what's happening in the episode, what these characters are thinking. Like it's I really try not to micromanage as a director. And I think if I did, it would be to the detriment of the show because when you have really talented actors, you let them do what they do, and that's what makes a show really really great.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, I agree too. Um, let's talk a little bit about maybe a preview of the next episode. We're going to be bringing in, I'm not going to spoil anything, but we will have at least one other Articulate founder in that episode, Miss Jennifer Kellums, which she does a fantastic job. And I think we have Marcus Roberts in that one as well.
We do indeed.
Yes. Marcus, unfortunately, is going through some personal issues, but our thoughts are out to him, and hopefully he is able to make a comeback, which would be fantastic because he's a great actor. Other than that, we're gonna talk to Aaron in a couple of episodes about how he came up with his little concept, which is great. But I do want to touch on the fact that we have Static Shift as kind of our main storyline, and then we have some of these kind of guest episodes, if you will. And we're calling those beat frequency, which are usually kind of off frequencies from what a main frequency might be. I'm not going to go into the one that Aaron did, but talk to us a little bit about being a showrunner and having an actor come up to you and say, "Hey, I have this idea for something that I want to do it's in the same world, general world, but I don't want to detract from the main story." What was that like? Jason and Aaron, you guys want to talk about that because you know it was kind of a collaboration between the two of you.
All right, I will go first. Well, from my perspective, Aaron came and said, "Well, I'm going to write it and cast it and direct it," and I said, "Awesome, I'm in." Because in no place in there did I hear I have to do more work. No, um, yeah, I thought my plate's kind of full, but if you're gonna be driving, it's like when you're the driver for all the road trips, and then somebody says, "Hey, you wanna go 3 states over for cheese museum or something?"
But the passenger princess steps up and
Right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
If somebody said no, it was a great idea that Aaron had. It was an awesome idea, and I got excited about it, and yeah, I loved it, and I it's one thing to create to write a story that kind of resonates for people, and people enjoy it and they get something out of it, but to write something and then to have not just somebody, but somebody that you know and you respect and who's talented and hardworking, and they say, "Okay, the thing you did makes me want to do a different related thing." Like I just don't see any downsides to that. So I was excited about it as soon as Aaron told me, and I think the all it's done is enrich what's already there. And I think people are going to find over the course of the next few months that they're distinct stories. They have their own identities, but I think there is a real sense of this wider shared world. So I am so grateful to Aaron for taking the initiative and putting all this an incredible amount of work and into expanding this universe and enriching it and making it deeper and more complex. So I can't say enough good things about it. I'm a fan.
Me too. Aaron, we're going to dive into this obviously after the episode comes out. Stay tuned for that, everybody. But do you have anything that you want to say about kind of the genesis of it, or what it was like approaching Jason and saying, hey, I've got this idea? Like, what was that like for you? Again, don't get into specifics about the episode itself because we're going to dive into that when we get to there.
Clearly.
But yeah, just thoughts, anything?
So I'm not even going to mention the episode itself. What I am going to say is that for those out there who are comic book collectors, because I like to refer to this more than I do like a sitcom spinoff, because sitcom spinoffs are more often than not failed attempts. Let's call a spade a spade. In comic books, going all the way back to the death of Superman, you're going to find that you have a main storyline, and that's what Static Shift is. It is a main storyline that comes from this guy's mind.
So if you're me and you're not a comic book fan, but you have watched the Marvel movies and you're interested in the Marvel movies, it's like this is the prime timeline versus one of the offshoots? Is that kind of where you're going
So
for?
you can watch Avengers,
Yeah.
right, and enjoy Avengers. Or you can watch Avengers and then watch Spider-Man between each one, and Cap and Thor, and it just goes on. Oh, Iron Man, right? Or you can just watch Avengers and enjoy it for what it is. It's the same thing with comic books. Like you have a main, like yearly, you'll have a main storyline that's just huge. For example, last year, Marvel Comics had a thing called Blood Hunt. It was an enormous vampire story. Now, you can get Blood Hunt 1 through 5 and enjoy it for what it is. Came out every 2 months. Or, if you want the meat and potatoes of things that may not be so important and really don't disrupt the main timeline, then you can get the associated comics that related to Blood Hunt. And it would tell you at the top, Blood Hunt, but it's not the actual storyline, right?
Gotcha.
This was the approach I took to the episode that I wrote in relation to the actual Static Shift storyline. How it began was I had a fascination with one of Jason's characters. And I was asking myself, okay, how do I flesh this character out and make her even more fascinating without changing the Static Shift story? And I had a way, and it flopped. And then I found something that really inspired me. And then I met somebody who really inspired me. And I got together with y'all plus a couple of our newer members. And 70 working hours later, it came to life. But I'm going to stop there because when we get to it is when we'll really get into it.
I love it. And just for the people who are listening or watching, the beat frequency episodes are labeled as such, but they will be on the main Static Shift feed, if you will. So if you're going to look at the playlist on YouTube, you'll see it just listed in there. If you're on the podcast, if it's in your podcast feed, it'll be listed in there. This is my second podcast that I've actually been producing. I think this is my first audio drama for sure. Anybody else? Jason, you've worked on Partial Veil.
Yes.
Have you worked on any other audio dramas?
There was, I had a small part in an audio drama called The Persisters.
Okay.
And let's see, in terms of audio dramas, I think that's about it. But I actually did have a short-lived movie review podcast back in 2004 and 2005.
Did you ever
The
do
early days.
The
Yeah.
early days of podcasting.
Did you ever do any kind of like a sub, like trying to do like a sub episode? That's what I'm trying to do in our feed, and this is just I'm putting this out there so that if anybody who is a fan or is a listener knows how to do this, let me know. I'm just doing like episode 3.1 for some of the or whatever the number is, 0.1 for some of the beat frequency episodes. So I figured that'll just make it obvious that it's not a main story episode, and obviously it's in the title too. It's beat frequency episode whatever, so you'll get to see those. And then Tiffany and Aaron, have you guys been in any audio dramas before? Or have you guys done any kind of a podcast in the past?
No.
Oh yeah, Aaron was on a podcast, Star Wars related one, right?
So I was a co-host of two. Before I even met you guys, I was a co-host of two shows at the same time. I was on Kyber Cave After Dark with some very close friends, and then I became a regular co-host on a show called Distance Nerding.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I've got some on-camera mic experience there, but it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I've seen a couple of those Kyber Cave episodes, or yeah, I guess episodes. And the guys, the two who run that are awesome. Love watching them. They're a lot of fun. And then Tiffany, no experience. You're like me.
No.
Aw.
Yeah. Well, most of my, I don't know, nerddom hasn't gone into talking to other people about it. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. And then, of course, most of my audio stuff before I started doing freelance was all corporate.
Right.
So, yeah, this is my first foray into audio drama, and I am thoroughly enjoying it.
It's so much fun. Does anybody else have anything to add to the conversation? Any other questions for anybody else? Anybody? Because I've kind of been driving it, but I'm open to any of you guys asking questions too, or putting anything down that maybe we haven't reviewed for episode 1, Blackwood Manor.
So Jason made a point earlier that I would like to not really beat a dead horse with, but I would like to drive home.
Sure, go for it.
There is something to be said about a level of trust. And honestly, what I believe makes Static Shift episodes so great and so entertaining to listen to, yeah, it's got fantastic editing. I think Jason is a magnificent editor. He's a magnificent musician. The atmospheres he creates, top notch. I don't think I could beat it, and I spend way too much time editing. Way too much time. But this group has a relationship. It's a level of trust that we have in each other. It's a chemistry that we have. Individually, if we were asked, we could probably name 2 or 3 people we very easily bounce off of, just as much as we very easily bounce off of in real life. I can say from experience, I know the people who I work with. Even in the little episode I ended up doing, I had members in mind. I wrote with members in mind. Like sometimes there are just characters who are created because my friend exists. So it's, yeah, I don't want to use the vocabulary gatekeepy. However, I would go to any one of you and ask you to go outside of your wheelhouse and try something new before having an open casting call.
I think that just kind of speaks to, and I love that because it speaks to the fact that in this industry, a lot of the times it is a lot about who you know, and I don't mean that in a like getting around the system kind of a way. It's literally wanting to work with your friends. Like we all met in a particular space, and we all really quickly kind of formed our relationships. And when certain ones of us decided that we had kind of outgrown that space, we kept those relationships going because we wanted to work with each other. Like we wanted to continue to interact and collaborate. And I think that that can be said for almost any aspect of any kind of creative endeavor. And even so far as like real world jobs. If you're going into real estate, people don't want to work with real estate agents that they don't know because it's an unknown factor, right? They might be good. They might have been doing this for 20 years. if I don't know you, I am a real estate agent. I don't know you. I don't necessarily know that I want to work with you versus, oh, it's Cameron. I've been working with Cameron for 20 years. Like, I know him. He's awesome. I think that it goes the same. Cameron's rad.
Love
He also,
Cameron.
dude, Cameron wanted to be a voice actor too. I think he's actually trying to get back into it, which is fantastic. He's a great guy. Anyway, I digress. Back on topic. I think it a lot goes into the same kind of thing when you're talking about rosters, agents, getting in with production companies. A lot of that just kind of goes into the decisions that are being made. And I think it's less gatekeeping and more just like, you're a known quantity, so yeah, we'll give you a shot. Or, yeah, we've worked with you before, you did a great job, we'll continue to try to find things that we can work with you with. Which I don't find that gatekeeping.
No, I don't think it is. One thing I've noticed about this group is where we came from, we were all helpers.
Yep.
Every single one of us was a helper in the group, right? Whether that was, nobody asked us to be, we just were.
Yeah.
And I think
some of us way more than others of us. Miss Tiffany.
What are you? No.
If you don't know, Tiffany is the badass of the group. Like she is the most reliable, awesome person you will ever meet ever in existence.
Yes.
So
she is Queen Tiffany, and I'm the village idiot. So it all goes over my head.
No.
But
Except
continue,
for the
Tiffany.
jewelry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that when you have a group of helpers, right, or you are in a group of people and you are a helper, that's how people come back and want to work with you because you're easy to work with, you're wanting to contribute, you are coming into the situation to give, not to take. And I think that is one of the key hallmarks for everyone in this particular group and partially why we've all been so successful in the voiceover journey that we've had, right, in the kind of path that we've taken. When you come into something and you want to give rather than take, it will be far more successful for you long run. And I think that that's why we've been so successful together.
Agree. I love that. That's a great way to put it. I've also heard it being called growth-minded or having a servant's heart, which all of that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else? Well, I guess the reason that I brought that up and the reason that I wanted to go kind of down that route, I'm glad that you brought it up, Aaron. I'm sorry. The reason I was asking for other questions, and I'm glad that you brought up that whole thing, is our roster. We do have a roster, and we do go out and find new people. That being said, it's not an open roster necessarily. It does come down to trust. It does come down to us having some kind of a relationship with you in the past. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to have met you or that we have to have worked with you in person necessarily. So what I'm trying to say is like and subscribe. If you like our stuff, go and follow us on Instagram and YouTube, all of that stuff, and be engaged because we pull from the people that we interact with. And I know it sounds like a super salesy way to get you guys to, follow us, but we are actively looking at people and being like, oh, cool, they do a really good job. They don't do something that we already do. Maybe we'll start seeing what we can get them worked into. So just shameless plug, I guess.
Yeah, and we're everyday people. Talk to us.
100%.
We want to talk to you.
100%.
Except
100%.
Jason, I'm his spokesman. Okay.
Jason's actually charging us to be on this app. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But that voice of God he's got, that deep, gravelly voice is so nice. I love it.
That's right.
Anyway, anybody else have anything else that they want to talk about? I know I already asked that, but anything additional? Wonderful. All right, y'all. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this first Resonant Frequency episode, and we'll be keeping these coming. After every Static Shift episode, we'll at some point be releasing one of these to kind of talk about that episode, a little bit of the actors in the episode. This particular episode of Resonant Frequency is just the actors who were in the episode and, of course, the showrunner. We may at some point have other roster members from Articulate come in and just kind of give their 2 cents on what they got when they were watching it or listening to it. But, we're working on this as we go. So stay with us.
And if listeners have questions and they want to like, oh, what was that about in that episode? Leave comments so that we can address those and kind of talk about those in these resonant frequency sessions.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I believe you can email us to, let me see what the email address is. I think it's staticshift@articulate.studio. It's all one word, Static Shift. But that's all we got for today. So we'll see you on the next episode of Static Shift, or we'll entertain you on the next episode of Static Shift, and we will see you and entertain you on the next Resonant Frequency. Have a good night, everybody. Good day, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you, and we will talk to you later. Say bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.